Welcome to the Self-Storage Development Podcast, the show where we take you behind the scenes of building Class A self-storage from the dirt up. I'm Brady McDonald, the founder of Barefoot Land Co., and in every episode, we dive deep into the deals, the entitlements, the wins, and the real-life stories behind the people building storage across the country. From personal lessons to development insights, this is your no-fluff playbook for sourcing, developing, and investing in self-storage. Let's get into it.
This is episode 001, Wade. So
yay, let's go. I love it. First guest.
Right on. All right. Well, let's get into it here. Super excited to have my friend Wayde Elliott here join us on podcast 001. And I'll give you a quick intro to Wayde. So after a successful 20-year career in dentistry, yes, Dr. Wayde Elliott made his bold transition into the self-storage ownership and development. He was inspired by one of his patients who had a successful self-storage portfolio, and drawn to the time freedom and financial potential of real estate, Wayde embarked on his own journey in the industry. His first self-storage development was transformative, generating more profit than 2 decades, so 20 years in dental practice combined. So today, Wayde leads StoreIT, a self-storage development company that has successfully developed a whopping 11 properties, and he's continuing to grow continuously. So welcome, Wayde. I'm excited to get chatting with you.
Well, thank you. That sounds so official. And just a little clarification, I'm not a real doctor. I was just a dentist. So try not to get too fancy.
So you're one of the, so some dentists are doctors and some dentists aren't?
No, I am a doctor, but it's kind of a running joke between me and my buddies. Not a real doctor, just a dentist.
Gotcha. I'm still going to go with Dr. Wayde going forward. All right, buddy, let's hop into this. So give us your background. Like I just said a little bit of it, but like there's probably a little bit more to it that you would want to share with the people. How did this really come to fruition?
Yeah, so I had a friend of the family who was a dentist growing up. He got me interested in dentistry. I had a successful practice for 20 years. I loved it. The patients were great. The staff, amazing staff, made really good money, making $350,000 a year, working 3 days a week, which is amazing. But I was trading time for money. And the only time I was making money is when my hands were in someone's mouth. And having that patient come in and talk to me, he owned fishing lodges, hunting lodges. He was a logger, like he had a lot of different operations, but he always said self-storage was the asset class, and that piqued my interest. And so every time he came in, my schedule would go to shit. I would run way late and just talk to him over and over and over again about the metrics and how he got started and what he did. And he was very, very generous with his knowledge and helped me out. And I was able to do the first facility in St. Helens, which was near my dental practice, which made it a whole lot easier, and able to, keep my finger on the pulse and really oversee it. And then when I exited that one, so it's actually my second one where I made more money than doing dentistry for 20 years. So that one I exited. I think I made $3 million, and I used the $3 million to buy 86 lumber yard and defunct 86 lumber, and then I converted that, and that's where when I exited that, I sold to a REIT and made $10 million on that property.
It's amazing. It's a great story. So I imagine this wasn't as easy as what you just kind of, it's so easy for us to rhyme off how that happened, but how did you get into that first deal? Can you kind of dig, peel back a couple layers of the onion? Like how did you find it? Was it a development deal? Was it a value add deal? Who did you put around you? Like, how did this thing come to life on your first and second?
I was very curious, and I've always been a learner and grower. So from very early on, I hired consultants and coaches for my dental practice because I just wanted to be the best dental practice, the best dentist I could be. And I've kind of applied that all the way through to storage. So, as you know, we're in the boardroom mastermind group together. So I'm always wanting to learn and grow. So on that first deal, I asked a lot of questions. I went to a self-storage conference, and it was, I think it was 7 acres. It had a house on it. And there were so many problems with it. Looking back, I wouldn't do that deal again, but your first deal, you don't know what you don't know. And I just jumped in and got some rental income from the house for the first year, got it entitled. This was way back when, where the banks would loan on appraised value, not construction cost, cost value. And so I got a lot more leverage there, which allowed me to build it. And I actually built a car wash with it, which helped the cash flow during the lease up. And everything that could go wrong with a project went wrong on that project. Like, we had to run sewer underneath the highway to connect, a half mile away, which was super expensive. There was a ton of rock on the site. So, we had change orders all over the place for rock. We had wetlands. I learned all about wetlands and the division of state lands, which, as you know, is a huge pain in the ass. We had to put a larger culvert underneath the railroad, which is a huge pain in the ass. And we had to move the access to the site because there was rock and some wetland areas. So we had to move the access. So we had to go through the Oregon Department of Transportation, which was a huge headache. So, you package all of those together, it was a nightmare. But I just kept grinding through it and asking questions and just kept my head down. And I like to say I got my PhD in development on that first deal, just because I learned all of the different things that can go wrong and in entitlement, and just going through the process to get it ready to build. And now, fortunate enough to have a really good team in all aspects, whether it be an architect, engineer, a planner, a team in office that handles a lot of the brain damage of just getting it to the finish line, which I'm so grateful for.
Yeah. So you mentioned like you literally hit every hurdle, like stormwater issues, access issues, environmental issues. Like, these are all the big things. Like you said, these are lessons. These are big things that you'd watch for prior to even getting things under contract. Did you have somebody to navigate all that with you? Like, how did you figure all that out by yourself?
Yeah, I think I just asked a lot of questions, and I didn't have the resources that I had now. I was just kind of trying to do it on a budget. In fact, that project, I had the brilliant idea that I was going to be the GC. I didn't want to pay the $300,000 GC fee at the time. And within the first week, I had a $75,000 change order. And looking back, it was just all bullshit. Like, I learned, don't step over dollar bills to pick up nickels. So now, we have the same GC that we've worked with. We have the same architect that we worked with. I learned on that first one through making mistakes. Get good people, pay them, don't step over dollar bills, pick up nickels. And so I think, I did a lot of the heavy lifting on my own and made a lot of mistakes on that first deal. And I think I just put my head down and grinded through it. But I don't know that that's the smartest way to do it. And I wouldn't recommend that again. I would recommend getting really smart people, or, getting a site that's fully entitled, like what you do is amazing. Like, you got the land entitlement, you've done a lot of the brain damage to get it. That takes a lot of the challenges out of it, and, makes it a lot easier. So yeah, what you're doing is brilliant. I love it. I love your model.
Yeah, it is hard. It's one of the parts that, that's where you discover all of the risks, right? And if you can get through that entitlement part, then a lot of the risk, at least associated to the, a bunch of the things that you hit, not the development part, the construction risk is still associated there, and debt risk and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it definitely helps. So let's go into the second deal. So what was different about the second deal than the first deal? Like, you made $3 million on the first one, you made $10 million on the second one. Was there different metrics, a better areas? What were the things that really moved the needle there?
Yeah, good question. So it was an 86 lumber, 84 lumber, 86 lumber. It's a national chain. They had a location, kind of an interesting location. It wasn't on a main thoroughfare, so it was off. And they just shuttered it. Like, they wanted to have nothing to do with the site anymore, the location. So I don't know if they were reorganizing the company. But I was able to buy it. I think they started, the listing price originally was $8 million. Then it went to $5 million. And I think I picked it up for $2.5 or $3 million. So it was, I think, 16 acres. It was a 50,000 square foot concrete tilt-up building, beautiful shape. The roof was good. It was a nice building. And there was 2 carports where they used to store lumber under it. So what I did is I just went in and I converted those carports to boat and RV carports, which was a no-brainer. And then I converted that big warehouse to conventional self-storage and climate-controlled self-storage. And I had a lift in there, like a freight elevator, just to do a second story. And then as we leased up, I built out a little bit more. I did some fully enclosed boat and RV. And I think what made that one easier, it was a conversion. And from my experience, the conversion, the entitlement process is way easier. You don't have all the SDC fees that you do on, a ground up. So that just the speed to get it done was much, much quicker. And there was asphalt there was structures there. It just made it cleaner and easier to do. And there was a lot of demand in that market. There was a bunch of pent up demand. So once we flipped the switch, it leased up very rapidly. And yeah, I think that combination was kind of a perfect storm. And then a REIT, NSA just wanted it more than I did and offered a rate that I'm like, you're the keys, you can have it.
You gotta love when that happens. Perfect. What year was that when that one sold? Was that closer to the peak?
Yeah, that was, let's see, I want to say that was 12 years ago, maybe.
Okay, so a bit of time ago. Good for you.
Yeah.
That's great. So let's just talk about your strategy in general. So obviously you've done ground up with no conversions, and you're talking conversions is more preferred. Can you just talk about more about what is your go-to choice right now?
Yeah, I love conversions. If I can get a conversion, like right now we just got C of O on a ground up. It was a 12-acre site. We completely built it up. I think we built out 180,000 square feet between, carports, covered and fully enclosed.
So a mixture of boat and RV?
Yep.
Boat and RV and regular storage, sorry?
And we did a 60,000 square foot building with drive up all the way around the outside and climate controlled on the inside, which was kind of cool. We're using some, I don't know, for lack of better terms, they're called swamp coolers on the roof, which are super energy efficient and they're great. We've been super happy with those. So that was ground up. And then we have a conversion happening right now. It was an old printing press. I think we're going to get C of O in the next 2 or 3 weeks in Salem, Oregon. That's been an interesting, fun project where we're converting an old building where there's all sorts of challenges. There's a hole in the floor where the printing press was. We had to fill that in. And we're doing some storage lockers, which are on top of the storage units, which I'm interested to see how those actually perform. And then we have another one that we're going to start in the next couple of weeks. It's kind of a combination. There were some buildings on it. We're going to convert those buildings. We're going to convert one into an office. There was a building I thought we would convert to storage. It was an old cold storage, and there was just too many problems between asbestos and everything else. We just demoed that, and we're going to do some portables on that site, which we haven't done those before, so I'm interested to see how those perform and lease up and get built. And then we're going to do some conventional on that. So my preference is conversion if we can get it. We have a few deals in the pipeline that we're looking at that are conversion deals that hopefully we'll put under contract.
Gotcha. Yeah, just for the listeners, what's the construction cost difference that you find between, ballpark between a conversion per square foot and ground up? Would you know those numbers?
Yeah, I don't have them off the top of my head, but I can say that the cost of capital is so much quicker to get to the finish line. So there's that cost. You don't have all the SDC fees, and the cost to get it entitled is way cheaper. And then the cost of construction is a lot cheaper because you don't have all of the concrete slabs and the asphalt's typically down. So I don't have the exact number. That would be an interesting number to have, but I know it's significantly cheaper.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, because you got roof exteriors that are already up. You've got all the drive aisles, the asphalt, the sewer, the water lines. It's no tapping fees.
Yep.
Drainage is likely there already. I mean, yeah, you're going to cut the cost down a lot.
Yep.
Very cool. How do you find those deals? I mean, one of the things we've been asked, and you and I have talked a little bit about it, but in my head, I still struggle. We obviously specialize in sourcing land specifically for development, ground up self-storage development. But vacant land is a little bit easier, I think, than to find a building, right, that is for sale or that you could approach for that would be, be interested in taking an offer in a good area, because it's so hard just to find a parcel in a good area, let alone a building. So how do you do that?
Yeah, we're getting better at it. I used to do all of the sourcing myself, and I had a meeting with Kent. I don't know if I told you, but he had me take him through the process, and he goes, "You're not good at that. Why are you doing it?" And I said, "Well, I like it. It brings me joy, and I get amped up." And he's like, "Well, get someone that's better at it than you. You're not good at it." So I hired my son, who is way, way better at it. As you know, there's a lot of back and forth. You got to call brokers. You got to sit and I wasn't. That was the part that I didn't do very well.
Just because he can doesn't mean we should, right?
He's good at it. So I think to answer your question specifically on how we're getting the conversion or the dirt, we're starting to build a lot more relationships. So brokers are actually bringing us deals now. Like, we've been around. In fact, I just had a call earlier before we got on this call, and he was like, what are you looking for specifically? What markets? I have some potential deals. So we're getting a lot of those calls. And then Chase scours CoStar. So we're members of CoStar, and he's constantly looking in the markets that we really like on CoStar. And then we had kind of an interesting one come up. We found a deal, and it was on Facebook Marketplace of all places. Like, I would have never guessed. It was a small facility that we'll add some value to that's already existing. There's some revenue, but it was on Facebook Marketplace, believe it or not.
On the self-storage group or on just somewhere else?
No, it wasn't. It was just on Facebook Marketplace.
That's amazing.
I ended up listing it with a broker, but it was a residential broker. It's not even a commercial broker. And another deal that we're looking at that's conversion. It's going through bankruptcy, and a residential broker picked it up. He had it on RMLS, and someone that we know found it through there. Fortunately, it wasn't even on CoStar. So sometimes you have to get creative and really think outside the box. But the lion's share has been on CoStar. I said, I'd probably say 80% of our deals that we do were found on CoStar.
Yeah, that makes sense. But you're right. You never do know. Like, I mean, especially these smaller mom and pop operators, they just sell, in any way they know. And sometimes that's the local realtor that sticks it on Facebook.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about a little bit about your team and the structure. So obviously you've got multiple developments going on, some conversions, some ground up. You've also got a portfolio to manage as well, correct?
Yep.
And just maybe we'll just go there first. What do you currently have in your portfolio? And the reason why I'm going to ask this is because I want to talk next about your team and the size of the team that it takes to do exactly the thing that you're doing. So in case somebody wanted to replicate it.
Yep. So currently we have 3 properties, all different sizes. We have another one that in California, we just got C of O on. We have another one that we're going to get C of O on in the next couple of weeks in Salem. So there's 2 more. And then we're going to start construction on another one in Central Valley, California.
You guys are cranking.
We got a lot of turning components for sure.
And so what does the team look like, Wade, to do all of this work?
Yeah, so I'll start from the top. So Val, this is interesting. I hired Val 5 years ago. She's been with me 5 years. She worked at Nordstrom for 20 years. She was retired. I got referred to her. I needed someone just to go through my inbox, answer emails, and run errands. So she was hired 15 hours a week to do that. It developed into more and more and more and more. And today, I often joke, but it's really true. Val is my boss. Like, she's the one that's actually dealing with the banks and the contractors and the engineers. Like, the amount of things she has to coordinate and keep all the wheels turning is crazy. So she's the number one. And then Ashley hired to fill Val's space as kind of a admin. And now Ashley handles all of our social media, all of our marketing, all of our website. We have a management company that we work with on some of our sites, and she works with them on making sure that everything's just flowing along and keeps the finger on the pulse basically with pace and making sure it's going well. And then we have Chase, who's my son, and he's sourcing deals, investor relations, any odd projects that Val or Ashley can't get their hands on or get the time to do. He takes that on. And then we have Amy, who's a part-time bookkeeper, 2 days a week, where she just comes in and just manages all the books and makes sure everything's lining up. And then everything else is like we have a outsourced fractional CFO, a fractional controller, the contractors and the engineers are all of that's just subcontractors. We just
that's amazing. You guys are doing a lot of work, a lot of value creation with a relatively small team.
Yeah, we're fairly lean, and we I think one of the things that's really allowed us to do that is we're on traction, and we meet with a traction coach implementer every quarter, and we're super focused on, these are our rocks, this is the lane we're going down, this is what we're doing, and that's really allowed us to stay focused and scale, really.
Yeah, I was going to just ask you about the systems and processes and possibly softwares that you guys use to be able to run such an operation with so few people. But one of the things that you just brought up a really good thing is the book traction. It's the EOS system, right? Yep. So entrepreneurial operating system, I believe, is what EOS stands for. And so there's probably a bunch of people that listening to this that either are entrepreneurs or they want to get into self-storage or self-storage development. And one of the things, like we had Wade, we up in Canada before we got in development in the US, we had a company 22 to 25 staff, no operating system, absolutely like no meeting cadence, no goals, no rocks. We were flying by the seat of our pants, which is a bit probably how 99% of the entrepreneurs out there operate. Yep. EOS is a great, format to endorse it and put into your system. Maybe just talk to us a little bit about that, because I think it's a super valuable, not necessarily specifically for development, but as an entrepreneur, people need to know more about this. Like, can you just give us a little bit more information on it?
Yeah, it's. I'll tell everybody it's not cheap, but you pay for what you get, and I think it's. It's $8,000 a day, and then you got to pay your staff. And we usually do something fun, dinner, kind of a culture building activity after. But I can say after every meeting, I ask the staff, hey, this was a $10,000, $12,000 day. Was it worth it? Did we get $12,000 of value from this day? And 100% of the time, every time, everyone says yes. And so we book again next quarter, and we've been doing that for 2.5, 3 years. Okay,
so you guys are bringing in an integrator,
yes,
and they come in quarterly and then host the quarterly planning sessions, essentially.
Yep.
And are you guys doing the L10 meetings like weekly and that type of stuff as well?
We do. We do that every Tuesday, and it's through 90.io is the kind of the platform that we do, and it ties into what we do. And then we have a meeting on Thursday as a whole team that's not in 90.io, and we mainly capture things in Asana. So we have a lot of our stuff in Asana, which has been super helpful. It's a good way to assign tasks and ensure that it's captured and being done. So on Thursdays, we usually have a property meeting. Here's the properties that we've identified that are in the funnel. Here's where they're at. Here's what needs to be done to get it to a hell yes or hell no. And then we usually go through our top three. Like, what are the top three things that are going to move the needle for each of us? And then talk about that as a group. Like, yes, I see those, your top two, but your third one I don't think applies. What about this? It'll fit more into the rock. So,
yeah. Love it. That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, that's a huge nugget for everybody. I mean, the sooner that you can get into EOS, read the book Traction as an entrepreneur, it will save you, and it'll make you a lot more money. That's for sure. And save you a lot less headache. You can run a company truly like a CEO. Cool. Let's spin into, you did mention your son deals with investor relations. So let's just talk about, do you raise money for your deals? What does your capital stack look like?
Yeah, I'm new to this, so I'm still figuring this out. The last two deals, we've raised capital about $6 million, and out of that, I think I was 2 of the 6 million. So I put my money alongside the investors, and I think that just is the right thing to do. The stack looks like 65-35. So 65% goes to the equity, 35% goes to the GP or StoreIT, which is us. And we don't get anything until all of the equity is paid back. And I'm part of that, so I'll get some of that before. And then once all of the equity is paid back, then it's split 65-35.
Yeah.
On the first 2 deals, I got a lot of pushback from everybody on the team, my accountant, everybody. We didn't do any fees at all. There was no acquisition fee, development fee, no fees at all, just because I wanted to be super, super successful. And they pointed it out to me, and it makes sense now. They're like, we have costs. Like, you have to charge something. Like, we all make really good money, and that's part of it. Like, we're working on these deals. So we are going to roll in a small development fee. I don't know what that's, 3%, 4%, 5%, something like that. I don't think we'll do an acquisition fee or disposition fee, but we're going to do some sort of, fee. And then I think we just charge, I want to say $1,000 a month for asset management fee to like oversee it. And we usually go to the site at least once a quarter, and that covers that sort of cost. So
Yeah. From an ongoing property management standpoint, once it's leased up or during lease up and during management. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I definitely got to cover the costs. Like, there's real costs associated to being the developer at the end of the day, and you want the developer to, be able to get paid and live and like have enough cash flow to perform well. And that takes money. Right. And so, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I have no regrets about it, but I learned from it. Right?
Yeah.
I learned, and like I said, I'm part of the investor on the first 2 projects, so I'll benefit from that as well. But from an ongoing, like, reproducible model, there has to be some fees.
Yeah,
cost, if nothing else.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about just quickly debt. I know, like, debt is one of the biggest challenges in development these days. And is it, what's your experience? Has it been any different for you?
Yeah, it's been challenging. So we just got approved for an SBA loan for the project we're going to do in Delano. So that one's good. And we've done a couple SBA loans. So there's some history there, and they kind of have some of our stuff in their system and a relationship. So that's good. The deal that we're doing in Salem, we've been working on it for, I don't know, a year and a half, and I've been cash flowing it. And part of that project is office. Banks just do not like office right now. It's like they just avoid it at all costs. And so I've had to cash flow that. My hope is that we'll get it built, get it leased up, and then package that to the bank and like, look, here, it's covering its debt service, and then we'll just deal with the office later.
Yeah.
So we have had challenges, and we've had some folks that said yes, and then, the 11th hour they pulled out on the Salem deal just because of the office. They could get behind the office, but then they couldn't get behind the office. We had another conventional bank pull out of the one in California, and that's why we went to the SBA. Just because we're in a good position, we're not super leveraged, and the SBA like that. So yeah, to answer your question, financing from a debt perspective has been challenging, and we work with a debt broker right now, Bryce and Wyatt, with I forget their name of the big group, but they've been very helpful in sourcing debt, and they have relationships, and they can tell the story a little bit better than us and lay it out on paper and speak bank talk, and it's been great having them.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, lots of challenges, and it really does seem like the people that I've spoke to, it really does come back down to relationships and track record at this time of the during this period right now. Now, hopefully, if the interest rates go down, the banks loosen up, everything would become infinitely easier.
I was going to share with you and your listeners. I interviewed all my investors just to put on our website and for other investors to see. And one of the investors said something that really resonated with me. He says, I look for the 3 T's before I invest. First one is trust. The second one is track record. And the third is transparency. How are you communicating? And I was like, it's so simple, but it's so brilliant. Like, I love that. So I stole that from him and told him, he's like, yeah, talk about it. He's happy to share. And so I think, if anybody's looking to invest in a deal, look at those 3 T's and make sure you're really comfortable. I mean, trust is the one that is so difficult to get behind. Like you have to know the person or know a person that knows a person. And especially if you're writing a $250,000 check or $500,000 check, like you want to trust they're going to be a good steward of it.
Yeah, for sure. And so it was trust, track record. What was the last one?
Transparency.
Yeah, and I think that's a big one for anybody that is listening that's going to be raising capital. We've been raising money since 2015 on real estate deals, and we're getting a lot better at this. But the one pitfall I will tell everybody right now, this is we could have been way better at this at our last business in Canada, is communication. And it's not that we were not being transparent by any means. It's just we weren't communicating enough, period. And I think that's one of the big things that we've done a lot better lately. And it's not just on this isn't true just for investors. It's true for your communication to a seller when you're doing a deal with a seller, or when you're doing a deal and you're actually selling it to a buyer. Everybody just needs to know what's going on. And I think that was one of my biggest lessons from a previous business. Now we're exiting that thing very successfully. But, you look back and you're like, what would we have done differently? And communication, you can't over communicate, but you certainly can't under communicate. When there's under communication, you get, not that they can't trust you, but they wonder, right? And then, and then they get all of these thoughts inside their own heads. And so it's just easier just to communicate overly, regardless if there's nothing to say, just let you guys know there's not much going on right now. This is where we're at. And so, I think that's a huge tip for anybody raising capital or just, in business in general. You can't over communicate.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. And it's, it takes work, right? Like I'm not the one doing it. Ashley's doing it. Ashley and Chase are doing it. In fact, today we're going to do an investor update. We send out a quarterly newsletter. They film me, hey, real high level. Here's what I saw. Here's, what we're seeing. Here's where it's going. And then we usually include some pictures of the project and then, any other meetings we've had with the city or potential leasers or contractors and put that in once a quarter is what we do. And I don't know if that's too much or not enough, but to your point, I don't know that it can be too much. And we try to keep it at a high level so we don't, overload the investors with a bunch of gibberish and things that don't really matter to them.
Yeah. They just, as long as they seem to just want to know that or that you're paying attention.
Yep.
Right. So yeah, that's great. Awesome. All right, let's go into. Let's just talk about what are your biggest pitfalls? You've been at this a little bit now, Wayde. You've got lots of experience. What are 2 or 3 of the biggest? I just gave you one just off topic of just under communicating. That was one of the things we learned earlier. It didn't really cost us any money, but we could have gave a better user experience for sure. But what are a few of your biggest pitfalls and mistakes or lessons that you've learned through this development career that you started?
Yeah, I think the biggest one, and it's hard to do, and we've done a lot of deals and getting to a hell yes or hell no quicker. And sometimes you got to spend money to do that. And, finding that balance, how much money do you spend to get to a hell yes, hell no? And, we've had some where we spent 25, 30 grand and then we get to the point and I'm like, it's a hell no. It just doesn't make sense. And, we've got all these reports and engineering and everything and we've pulled the plug. So I think getting to that sooner and having conversations with the city, county sooner, because they're all different. All of them are different. Some jurisdictions, we didn't have to do sprinklers in big buildings and where we had hallways. And others, we got to sprinkler freaking carports, which is a structure. It's just crazy to me, what is required and not required, and landscaping and access and getting as much information early on before you spend a whole bunch of money to get to a hell yes or hell no. I think one of the other mistakes that could have been made that we've avoided for the most part is really getting clear on demand. Storage can be overbuilt super easy in a lot of markets. And these facilities are, $8 to $12 million a piece. So if you think, hey, my uncle has this land, I'm just going to put a storage facility there. Be very careful about that. Ensure that there's demand. And, we hire Joe Bath to do feasibilities on all of our sites. It's cheap insurance. It's $8,000 to have this feasibility study, and it's just insurance to ensure you don't stub a toe or break an arm or leg. And then I think the third takeaway or kind of learning that I've learned, if I were to pass it on, is just because a city or county says something, don't trust trust but verify. A lot of times they'll say, yeah, your permit fees, for instance, on one of our projects, your permit fees are $1.4 million. And I said, no freaking way are we going to pay $1.4 million for permit fees in Porterville, California. And so we pushed back, and they're like, well, we might be able to classify it as this and do this. And long and short, we got the permit fees down to $400,000 from
wow, dude.
Pushing back, and not just because they're the county or the city that they know everything about everything, and trust. We had another deal recently where it's in the county, but the city wanted to come in and take 30 feet of right-of-way all across the property, and that would have been about a half acre. And we pushed back and got legal involved, and they had legal involved, and we ended up getting a city council member involved. And long and short of it, we don't have to give up that 30 feet now. Just pushing back and questioning, like, this just doesn't feel right. It doesn't seem right. Question it and really push back and don't just roll over. And we've had a lot of examples of that where, we're not assholes about it, but we're like, hey, this is real money, even if it's 50 grand or 100 grand, like, it's real money, and it can affect the model of the deal.
Yeah.
And the deal.
Yeah, that's so. I mean, I'm getting PTSD just thinking about all the times that the city or the county says something and it's just not true. I'm like, and you have that's a really good lesson learned, because you have to push back and you have to question them, because a lot of the times, I mean, maybe not in those two examples that you just gave, because those are pretty far in, like they're making some pretty heavy decisions. But a lot of times when you're talking to the community, or the city, just even about permitted use as an example, like you just talk to the wrong person, and they just don't know. They're reading the wrong section of the code. They send you the wrong information. Like, you need to question it, and it could be wrong in your favor or wrong against you, or right. And so you do need to double check every single thing and question, is this right? Yeah, that's a great takeaway.
Yeah, trust but verify is kind of one thing we talk about in the office. And
yeah,
to your point, when someone calls on a property, hey, can we do storage here? They're like, no. And that's the first answer that they typically give, no. And then I encourage everyone to follow up. Okay, well, what zones is it possible? And is there, a variance? Is there a way to do a change of use? Like, we have a whole system in Asana built out, like questions to ask the planner. We don't just settle for a no. It's like, we have to really dig deeper, and they're not willing to do all the work unless you ask the questions.
Yeah, 100%. And a lot of times you got to do the work for them. In different municipalities. And so that's a really good point. I mean, just with regards to entitlements, are you guys looking for purely permitted use? So parcels that are, storage is permitted, or are you willing to do special use or rezones to permit self-storage development?
We've done that. From my experience, it's hard enough to do it, just getting it to the finish line. And then if you start adding in wetlands and change of use and or special use and all of the other bullshit that goes with it. So we've tried to stay in the lane, like now I use. And so we haven't. I know you've got some ones where you've changed the zone, and hats off to you. Like that's awesome to be able to do that, but it's a whole almost another business. Right?
Yeah, it is.
Involves so much, and city council meetings and
nonstop.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very political. But yeah, just if we found when we started looking at land, and then we would get land across the entire country, and you talked about demand and how important it is to make sure it's not oversaturated. That's one big factor, and then obviously you got your rental rates and a bunch of other factors as well. But it was just so hard to find parcels that were permitted use that weren't oversupplied. Because storage has been booming for years now. So we were kind of almost forced to, we'd probably say like 80% are special use, conditional use, or a PUD, some sort of zoning thing to get it to create the opportunity. And I guess the reason why I have that tolerance to do that is because that's what we had to do more or less in Canada for all of our developments. We had to go through some sort of use approval, variances, etc., and they just kind of jam you on everything or attempt to, right? And so we were always dancing in that. So we kind of got used to, hey, this is, we create a package, and but this is obviously a little bit more to entail, but we kind of got used to the risk associated. But it does create some opportunity that a lot of people, like to your point, Wade, you guys aren't looking at that stuff too much. A lot of developers aren't. They don't want to deal with the mess. But if you are willing to deal with the mess and you can put the right team around you to do it, then it does create some opportunity for sure that other people aren't looking at.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we haven't played in your sandbox. It's a different sandbox.
Yeah, it's just like you said, it's an entire business, right? I mean, playing the politic game and community support game and recruiting support, like you're having conversations with the people. Like yesterday we had a meeting with the leasing agent for the multifamily that was right behind where we're trying to get a rezone done. Recruiting her to recruit others, and it's like it's so wild, but all good. The things we'll do for development of storage. Yeah, that just shows you how hard it's getting too, right? And just to be able to do this at scale. All right, Wade, I know you had a unique situation where you had like 400 customers that you moved from one spot to another. Like, what is this all about?
Yeah, crazy. Like how this thing unfolded blows my mind. So we have a site in Central Valley, California, where it's a 30-acre site, a bunch of carports, a bunch of fully enclosed, 2 climate-controlled buildings. So, it was humming along really well. And the school district, it's kind of in the zone where the school district is. And the superintendent came, met with me and said, they wanted to lease a bunch of space, and we're walking around. I'm like, well, you can lease this. This is available. You can pay this and put your buses here. And he says, we should just buy this from him. And I was like, ha, 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 funny. What are you going to do with the storage project? It's all storage. And then I got thinking about it. I'm like, well, yeah, we'll just sell it to them, and we'll build a new one and move everybody over and get the unit mix that we want, get more energy. Our power bill on that site was $25,000 a month just because it was so inefficient.
Right. Yeah.
All the HVAC, everything was old. So I got thinking about it. I'm like, yes. So, we went down this rabbit hole, and yeah, they have, I think, $4 million non-refundable. And I think we closed in November. We built another site. We have C of O, and the brain damage, you don't really think about moving from one site to another, but like making sure no getting, the unit size is the same unit size, and we were repurposing the doors. So we had to move. We built a bunch. I think we built 150 with doors. Then we're moving 150. Then we're moving the doors from the old facility because they're not going to use any of that. So we repurposing all the doors. And who goes in what unit? Some people wanted to move their own stuff. We hired movers. So if they didn't, we would just pay for the movers to move them if they didn't want to deal with it. And I think we've paid $60,000 so far just in the moving, which seems like a lot, but the manager on site's like, no, these guys are crushing it. They're doing so good. Nothing's broken. Everything's getting moved. So yeah, I think, there's 600 between RVs and units that we're moving. And so we hired a guy to drive all the RVs, drive all the trailers. And then the moving company's been doing great. And Yeah, I hadn't heard of any other operation where it's a facility and move it, and it's a half hour away. Like, it's not that far away.
It's a great way to force your lease up fast. Like, is this going to be a world record for leasing up a facility?
Yeah, I think we're going to be at like 65%. I think we were like 85 at the old facility, but we built it bigger. So I think, day one will be 65% occupied.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
Well, I know we talked before, but like the property management company that you guys use, they crush it for you, don't they?
They do a good job. Yeah. I mean, we still keep the relationship that we have is so great because some third-party management companies, they don't let you get involved at all. It's like, you stay away, we'll do our thing, you do your thing. And who we work with, they are amazing because we're able to, get on the calls with them, have some input, have our creative side, put our spin on the graphic design and our logos and all of that. And it's been great. Yeah, it's been really well.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. All right. Let's I know what's next for you, Wayde. I mean, you've got lots going on with these developments. I know, we were talking offline, you'd love to travel and obviously got this big business, but like, what's next? What does the next year or two look like for you?
Yeah, good question. So I've been super passionate about giving back. So I'm a big learner and grower, and I just have a thirst for knowledge constantly. I'm wanting more, and I've been really inspired to give back. So I've been putting a lot of content on our YouTube channel, our Instagram channel, on just some of the principles that I've learned and some of the things about some of our real estate deals that we've done that may help some other folks out there getting into business. So I've been super inspired about that. And I've been inspired about helping the underserved kids, single moms. I was raised by a single mom, and the kids with disabilities. So I've partnered with foster care, and I gave a goal-setting talk to the foster care counselors, and my girlfriend's on a board of a women's shelter, and we went in and given some goal-setting talks to the women and, supported them financially. So I think just giving back more there, and then giving back more on the social media is kind of where I'm heading in the next 3 to 5 years. And, I always say that my work is my play and my play is my work. And when it doesn't line up that way, I'll get out, because I don't have to do this self-storage, but I enjoy it and it's fun and it's exciting to me. And now that there's an amazing team around me where I can delegate so much, and I don't have to do any of the things I don't like to do, and have great mentors like Kent that says, you're not good at it, hire someone else, and listening to that. And it's been a fun ride. So I'm just going to keep going on this ride and then give back a little bit more, and both on the social media and to the people I care about, the underserved kids and kids with disabilities and single moms.
Dude, that just gives me goosebumps. I just love that, the fact that it's turned, and it turns, and it eventually turns for a lot of people that I know, because I know they're good people, and they're probably the same, a lot of the people that I know too, Wayde, but like eventually you get enough, financial stability. It doesn't need to be like complete freedom, but I see it a lot where you get enough. Us builders, we get enough for, hey, our family is good. Now, how can we take the skills and the knowledge that I have in this inspiration, the story, to help spread that and help everybody else and help as many more people as you can? Yep. And so you're in that phase. That's so I'm going to be super excited to watch and just hear that too, because it ends up being the currency that we actually desire. The currency we desire is not actually the money. The money gives us the freedom to actually give us a little bit of time back, so we can create the currency that, at least for me, that I want, which is helping people, right? Yep. And then seeing the changes and seeing the transformations. Like I said, one of my buddies sent me a message today. He's like, I quit alcohol. And, other people that they've lost, because I've got this 0 to 100 health thing that I really help people just to get healthy. Because that if we can get healthy, we can become better entrepreneurs and better people. But yeah, like that's currency to me, and I'm excited for you too, dude. Because I know you've got a massive heart, and you've obviously got an amazing amount of talent to share and to help other people. That's awesome. So Wayde, how can people follow you? The YouTube channel. I know there's going to be tons of information. I've been watching you drop those. How can people find that information?
Yeah, so Instagram, YouTube is Wayde Elliott DMD. It's WAYDE DMD, and that's the handle for all the social channels. And yeah, happy to have any of you share some comments about what you like and don't like, and give me feedback. We're relatively new to this. We really started doubling down maybe 5 months ago, and we're starting to hockey stick up. It's growing very fast, and we're super excited about it.
That's great, bud. Yeah, I'll make sure that we get that in the comments below on this. This will be on YouTube and everywhere. So, and then just lastly, as we find out, is there anything the listeners are listening to you, Wayde? Obviously, you got this amazing story. You're a great human. Is there anything that anybody could help you with? Like, is there, do you have any courses, or are you looking for more money from investors, or what is it that people can help Wayde with?
Yeah, we currently don't have any projects. We have a lot of projects in the pipeline, but we don't have any that we're actively raising capital for. My goal is to build out a bench of 20 investors that when a deal comes up, they're able to write a $250,000 or $500,000 check. And then the first people to fill out the ask, then they're part of it. So I think that would be my goal, and is to build out a bench of 20 really great people that understand real estate and like the self-storage space and are interested in investing in deals.
All right. That's awesome. Yeah. So the best way to get a hold of you for that, Wayde, is through social media, or where do you want us to drop your email on the bottom?
Yeah, social media or our website, StoreIT.com, StoreIT.com, and all of the emails and everything's in there. So, and a little bit about the company, and yeah. And awesome. I think, Brady, if there's one thing that I can give back to all of your viewers, this had such an impact on my life, is that you can do, have anything that you set your mind to. So I grew up not having money. We were lower class. I grew up in a family that didn't prioritize education, and I changed careers very, very late in life. And, like we talked about, made more money on one deal than doing dentistry for 20 years. So it's possible to design, build, and live an extraordinary life, even if you didn't come from money, education, a dentist, or any of that stuff. That is possible.
I love that, because having hope is one of the most powerful things. I was about to end it, but I don't think this is, I think, because what you just said is probably one of the most powerful things we've talked about so far. What, if somebody's listening to this says, yeah, okay, Wayde, but where do I start?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what would you say to that and kind of to close this up?
Yeah, I think there's a practice that I do every morning. I have a gratitude journal, but for your listeners that maybe don't have a gratitude journal, it's called the 5-finger gratitude. So if you just go through your hand, your pinky is something small that you're grateful for. Your ring finger is a relationship you're grateful for. Your middle finger is an FU that you're grateful for, because sometimes what you believe to be your biggest curse turns out to be your biggest blessing. So, an FU you're grateful for. The pointer finger is something you can point at that you're grateful for, and the thumb is something in yourself that you're grateful for. So if there's one thing to get started, like today, right now, it would be the 5-finger gratitude. And it's super easy to do. It doesn't cost any money, and it takes 30 seconds, right? If you don't have 30 seconds to improve your life, I would question, is life even worth living, right? And I know gratitude has had such an impact on my life. Can't be grateful for the little things in life right now. You're not going to be grateful for the big things when they come in.
So true. So true.
You have right now.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Wayde. Really appreciate you coming in here and pouring in to our listeners, and I look forward to seeing you again, bud.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Brady.
Thanks for listening to the Self-Storage Development Podcast. If you got value from today's episode, hit subscribe and share it with someone in the self-storage space. For exclusive, fully entitled self-storage development land opportunities, and to stay updated on future episodes, head to barefootlandco.com and join the newsletter. I'm Brady McDonald. Appreciate you being here. Until the next time, keep building.